My name is Antony Gormley. I've been making sculpture for 45 years. Why sculpture? Well, I got quite good at drawing people, drawing places, but it wasn't enough. Somehow making these registrations of the way people looked or the place that I found myself. And I realized that sculpture wasn't about making a picture of what already exists, but actually about changing the world. Through an act of transformation, you take materials that already exist, you turn them into a new form and put them back into the world, and then see what happens. And that's still a magic that totally enthralls me and makes me want to get up in the morning. The main work that I'm presenting at the Rodin Museum is Critical Mass, and that is entirely made from the casting from the outside of molds that were made of me. I use my own body because it's the only bit of the material world that I happen to inhabit, so I can work on it from the inside. I think this is very important. And yes, I don't want to talk about somebody else's experience. I don't want to talk about somebody else's appearance seen from a distance. So the truth claim of the work is very much that this is a captured moment of human lived time. But actually, there's nothing special about my body. My body is a particular example of a common human condition of incarnation. I want my work to be about life. I want to use my own life as, you could say, subject, tool, and material. And it became obvious to me that this was the most direct way of approaching the body, from the inside, from the point of experience, not from the point of appearance. My main material, it has to be iron. And why? Because iron is at the core of this planet. It gives us our magnetic field, it gives us our specific density, it keeps us on our trajectory through space, but also because iron is really the foundation of the industrial age. And even though we are in the middle of the information age, or in the revolution of the information age, still the foundation of contemporary life is industrial. I'm very, very interested in using the same materials and the same principles of manufacture that exist in the constructed world, but for imaginative purposes. It's important to me that my work is well made, while telling you the story of its making. So you should be able to read not only the materiality and this material iron's relationship to the elements and to oxidization and to entropy, but also understand how it has been grown, how it has been put together, thinking about how metal flows, how it solidifies. And you can see in some of the works that at the end, for instance, the very first work that we will put in the Hotel Biran, you can see that some of the ends of these branching systems, that the metal has cooled so much that you don't get an orthogonal exact 90-degree edge. And this is, I welcome this, because this is telling us about the processes involved in the creation of the work. Rodin was maybe the first to pick up something that had been in Chinese art and in Korean casting thousands of years earlier, that to respect the joint lines of a piece mold, drawing on the surface of the cast bronze, that tells you that it's come from a void, come from a multi-piece mold. And I think this reinforces, in a way, rather than having a perfect finish that destroys the narrative of its own making, we see the making inscribed on the visual surface that we look at. In thinking about Rodin's radicality, which is really releasing the object nature of sculpture, liberating the body from its locomotive and dramatic use in terms of mise en scène, everything that Rodin was brilliant at. I couldn't think of a better work that was going to dialogue with what I feel is his most important legacy to the future, and that is in critical mass. Critical mass, I think, takes the example of Rodin and makes it into a principle. So 12 basic positions of the human body that we can all recognize, but at the same time, having isolated these body postures, repeating them each 5 times, but then allowing those positions to re-articulate themselves depending on how they have found their point of rest. And in each of those positions, they become very different in the way that they affect us emotionally. The most obvious is the body form that is in a praying position, when inverted, becomes an arch of hysteria, where it balances on its heels and on the back of its head, and this thing that was to do with supplication suddenly becomes about ataxia, about the spontaneous response of the body to mental disorder. I think transformation is important in my work, and I was very, very influenced by alchemy and still love the language of alchemy. Nigredo, sublimation, precipitation, these ideas of chemical transformation. And sculpture, in some senses, has to use the rules of physics to change the way we feel and think. And this title, Critical Mass, is really important. This is the specific isotopic density necessary for fission to take place. This was the thing that changed the world in 1945 in Hiroshima. The way that human intelligence had understood the principles of space-time generation. And we're still, in a way, living in the shadow or in the potential of that understanding. In a political world in which fear and identity politics play such an enormous part, the refounding of first-hand experience within the body becomes more and more important. And I think of sculpture as being a way of reinforcing first-hand experience. We feel the mass. The mass is demonstrated in this work. And through it, maybe we feel our own mass, scale. Our species has always had to make models of itself in order to understand itself. In the view of post-Einstein general theory of 1915, our relationship to mass and matter has fundamentally changed. I want to bring that mass and that matter back to our consciousness in order for us to think about who we are, where we're going, where we come from. And I think of sculpture as a particularly pertinent tool for doing that job.